The chairman of the Manchester Arena inquiry has made a number of scathing criticisms of those in charge of security on the night of the attack.
Yeah, Sir John Saunders found there were missed opportunities to prevent the bombing at the Ariana Grande concert. Alice Porter reports.
Well, joining us now is Andrew Russos, whose daughter Safi was the youngest person killed in the attack, and solicitor Nicola Brooke, who's representing Andrew and 4 other families at the inquiry. If we can come to you first of all, Andrew, as always, good to be talking to you. Sad that it's in these circumstances, and I'm sure every day there's a hole with the loss of Safi that is unfillable, frankly. But hearing some of the findings emerging, what were the thoughts that went through your mind?
Good morning, Kate. Good morning, Adol. First of all, it's been a long road since September. Listening to the inquiry, it's been difficult, and it's been challenging listening to excuse after excuse and finger pointing after finger pointing to get to the point of this report. And when it came out, to be honest with you, it made us feel a bit emotional because it was what we were hoping for.
I mean, oh, sorry, I thought you'd finished. I do apologise.
I did.
And hearing some of the findings, because not everybody would have followed it as close as you, I wonder if you can tell us what went through your mind about exactly where Safi was and how this might have affected what happened to her. So there's this CCTV blind spot, isn't there, which has existed for years. If it was addressed, the attack could have been disrupted or deterred, fewer people killed. This is the spot which he knew about, which he hid in. There was very poor, significant failure in terms of counter-terrorism training, less than 2 minutes online for some. The risk assessments were inadequate, and an extraordinary moment where 2 people involved in the security actually took a 2-hour break and drove a 10-mile round trip to get kebabs, and that meant that an area was unattended. What do you feel, and do you know, can you sort of correlate how that might have affected Safi?
I can. It's unbelievable, isn't it, when you put it that way? And it's something that we've known for a long time. It's something that we've been listening to for a long time. And at the same time as that, listening to these big corporates trying to finger point and excuse why they did what they did. And it's unacceptable. Really, really unacceptable.
Let's speak to Nicola. Nicola Brooke, you're the solicitor working on this, and you've worked on a number of cases in the past. I know that you also worked on the Hillsborough tragedy, of course. I mean, time and time again, we see these moments where the worst thing to accept, I think, especially for Andrew and lots of other parents, would be that this could have been prevented. It could have been stopped. But now, there's nothing can be done about that now. What would be the aim now? What do you and Andrew and a number of other parents, what is it that you would want to see happen now these findings have come out, which are damning, not only on British Transport Police, but the venue owners and the security firm involved?
Hi, good morning. Yeah, yesterday was very hard for our families. It's been a real mixture of anger and relief. Anger at seeing the catalogue of errors listed in one place, but relief that the chairman has picked up on everything that the families were concerned about. What happens now is the recommendations that the chair has put forward. He has been quite forthright in demanding progress updates. He wants to ensure that progress is made before the end of the inquiry. He has published this report because he said that these recommendations cannot wait until the end of the case. There must be action now. One of the other things is, when he said missed opportunities, it's important to realise what he means by that. He's saying that action should have been taken, not that it could have been or might have been or should have been considered, but that it should have. have been taken. And the prosecuting authorities said at the start of this that they would be keeping the evidence against relevant organisations under review. Well, this is a catalogue of evidence that means that these prosecutions should not be delayed any further. There should be prosecutions for corporate manslaughter. There should be prosecutions commenced under the Health and Safety at Work Act. And we will be keeping an eye out to see what happens with that.
Mm. I mean, Nicola, Andrew said there that, didn't you already, that we can see sort of finger pointing and blame being associated. And I'm sure any individuals there on the day have the most enormous regrets. But it does seem to be that it was policy and actually the organisations that hadn't seen through things that they should have done as well.
Yes, the chair has made it clear that where he is critical of the individual actions, particularly by young stewards, yes, they could have taken a different course of action, but his criticism is aimed at the training and the lack of supervision. And it was really the training and the complacency that, although the UK was at a threat level of severe, no one thought an attack would happen. But you can't do a risk assessment based on, well, we don't have any intelligence that says the arena is going to be attacked on the 22nd of May. You have to do a risk assessment based on the fact that an attack is imminent and approach your security arrangements with that mindset. And that is what the chair is eager to overcome. And that's what would have made a difference to the families on the day if the risk assessments had come at it from that strategy rather than what intelligence do we have about this particular concert.
Andrew, what are your feelings, and I'm sure these thoughts have run through your mind, about what Safi would have made of hearing about this? And I'm sure your whole family's, anger, sorrow, frustration just was overwhelming, really.
What would you're asking me? What would Safi would make of this? Anger. She'd be angry that she was let down. I feel, we're going through this inquiry and life that we've got now for Safi, and she was a little girl that wanted to live life. She wanted to be here. She doesn't want excuses. She doesn't want. I mean, it was preventable. Easily preventable. And I am shocked at the failings throughout all this, shocked to the point where Safi would be shocked as well and be let down. And, it's just not good enough, really, really not good enough. And, these people need to stop finger pointing, get their act together and get, everything they need to get in place to do the best. It's all you can do is your best, but they're not even off the mark. These people, they're not, and this is where the emotional bit comes into it. When we hear this report, you put your trust in the chair to do the right thing, but of course you don't know until the reports come out. And I hope and I wish, for Safi's sake, as you mentioned, Safi, that report 2 and report 3 would be just as critical. Because, it's the only way that this country can move forward under what's happened to us on the 22nd of May. And there's no more excuses. There's no more hiding. This is a real, imminent threat that affects everybody. And, things need to change, really do.
We have statements from those that have been criticised in the report, either the organisations or individual. British Transport Police say they've been reviewing procedures, operational planning and training since the attack. Manchester Arena operator SMG said they're committing to working with the inquiry as well as looking at the lessons learnt. The standards they adopted were in line with published industry guidance at the time. And security provider Showsex said it has learnt lessons and the chairman has acknowledged improvements are already in place. Of course, no comfort for Safi, for Andrew, for all the other victims and families that are going through this. Very, very tough.
Can I just jump in there, Kate, please?
Of course.
Not interested. Not good enough. Far too late. What does that mean? What does that mean? You know, it's too late now. You know, for Safi, you mentioned Safi again. For Safi, it's too late. For us as a family, it's too late. So these things should have been addressed before 2017. As the chair said yesterday, 2016, you know, there's been, you know, all the atrocities in Paris and the UK, but we still don't learn. We still wait for something like this to happen. We still wait for our loved ones to die, and then we'll address it. Till what, next time? And then address it again? It needs to change. Laws need to change and force these people to put the right security and the right measures in place to make it as safe as possible.
Yeah.
Andrew, my heart goes out to you. Your anger is understandable and you put your case so powerfully and emotionally.
Andrew, you know, and what you're going through and what so many families are going through is just unimaginable. And you're absolutely right. More needs to be done. And the greatest honour that we can all pay, and particularly these people who are responsible, the greatest honour they can pay to Safi and all the people who lost their lives and all the families is to make sure this doesn't happen again. And you're absolutely right. It'll be interesting to see what happens to the second and third inquiries. But, you know, Nicola, is there an argument that there needs to be a bigger review across all venues across the UK? Because the biggest concern is when we are back out again, how do we know that our children and our family members are going to be safe when they go to a concert? We don't know. Because
and also, we've had so much focus on COVID and the dangers from opening up with that. Can we feel confident, I can see you nodding, Andrew, that this threat that was such a big part of our lives before the pandemic is still being taken seriously?
I think this report is a really good start in addressing security arrangements. But that only addresses what happens once the bomber walks through the door and what can be done to stop him once he walks through the door. I know for Andrew, one of the biggest concerns, and that of many of the other families, is how he was able to walk through that door in the first place. And that would be the subject of the third report, about what the security services knew about the bomber and his family and his associates, and whether he could have been stopped far earlier before he entered the arena complex. And unfortunately, a lot of those hearings are going to be closed and a lot of the evidence will be heard in secret. So that's a real issue of concern for Andrew in particular, but for the other families as well. And it's very disappointing that a lot of the changes that need to be made will be kept in the dark about, and we won't be able to make any submissions on, because we don't know what the security services knew about the bomber. We know they knew things. We know he was on a list. What we don't know is what was done with that.
Yeah. Well, Nicola, thank you so much for your time. Nicola Brooke, I hope you'll keep in touch with us, because I'm sure, you know, we here at Good Morning Britain will want to keep on covering and examining what the next level of inquiries are going to tell us. And, of course, we'll want to share that with everybody. And Andrew Russos, again, thank you so much. It's incredibly brave of you to come onto this show and talk like you do and do what you do, and it's very much appreciated. And our respects to you at this time. Thank you both.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Well said, Adol.